name's Marcus Sapir. I'm a solutions engineer here at Faddom, and thank you all so much for joining this webinar. Here, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And,
Just in the meantime, I wanted to say hello as well with us. We have Ofer, co-founder, CTO, my colleague. I'm Itamar, in charge of the product, CPO. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope that you will find this session interesting. We're gonna go over a few points about Faddom, but we're gonna focus mainly on the areas we believe that are going to be very relevant for you regarding the new version that we released. So Marcus, I'm very excited to see your presentation, and if you can walk us through the agenda so the new
yeah,
members join.
absolutely. Yeah, and thank you, Itamar and Ofer, for coming. And yeah, let's get started. So, what are we doing today? This is the Faddom on Tour. This is actually our second webinar in the Faddom on Tour 26 series, and we're going to be unboxing. First, we're going to be unboxing the new version, kind of looking at the new feature sets that came out in the 2026.1 new version. After we kind of cover that at a high level, I'm going to take us through an end-to-end tour of the Faddom demo, showcasing these new features and covering kind of some of the Faddom basics. Maybe we have a few new people here that aren't super familiar with Faddom. We'll take a look at that and how the new features kind of add to what we already have. And then Itamar will take us through the roadmap that's coming up for the rest of 2026 and maybe beyond. And then we'll have Ofer, the brain here at Faddom, to be able to answer any kind of these deep technical questions you might have. So think of some good ones. It's always a fun game at the office to try to stump Ofer. Rarely can we do it. So give it your best shot. He's gonna kill me for saying that. So just at a high level overview, for those that might be a little bit new to Faddom, what is Faddom? So in a sentence, we're an agentless hybrid application dependency mapping solution. So what do? We take and ingest data from all your different data sources, whether that's on-prem virtualization like VMware and Hyper-V or the cloud, along with your NetFlow data or network statistic protocols. And we kind of collect all that agentlessly, and then we put it together into a real-time application dependency map. And here on the right is kind of an example of what a map can look like in your environment. It's all in real time and a fully kind of unified view. Fast to deploy, usually in under 60 minutes, you can be deployed in your environment and able to start building your first maps. We're secure. As I said, we're agentless. So there's no agents to install on your production servers. And because of that, there's no crazy firewall rules that need to be open for your production servers. So it's all totally secure and on-prem to your environment. And with all that, you get a positive ROI very quickly, whether that's optimization or just improved efficiency, but you can see it turn around very fast. So these are just kind of a few of the areas that Faddom really excels and helps with, some use case scenarios. Discovery and change management is really the core of Faddom. That's the hybrid application dependency mapping, the IT documentation or populating your CMDBs. We're actually going to get into that in the demo because there's been some great advancements around CMDB population integrations in general. Once you've built out all your maps and you have this discovery and visibility, then it kind of goes into change management. How is your environment changing over time? What are the blast radius analysis, root cause analysis? Once we have the visibility, what can we do with it? Of course, we offer a range of cybersecurity. We're going to get into that a little bit. Everyone has cybersecurity. Nobody has enough of it. So some unique areas that Faddom works in is the SSL certificate tracking. We can monitor your SSL certificates, shadow IT discovery, and of course, like traffic anomaly, AI traffic anomaly. Of course, migration and optimization kind of work together. So if you're planning any big migrations or DR planning, you don't know what you need to fail over if you don't know what your dependencies are. So I come from the DR space before this, and it was just critical to know these kind of dependencies. And this also kind of plays into optimization. You don't want to, be migrating and then, using instances that are too big. All of this together feeds into our new AI features that we've constantly making advancements for. One is Compass AI, which we'll dive into kind of a deep dive on that in the demo, the new enhancements there. It's like AI chat for your environment. And then all of this also feeds into Lighthouse AI for traffic anomaly detection, kind of the eye in the sky or watchdog in your environment, alerting to things before they become a problem. And with that Lighthouse AI as that kind of there's a lot of analogies you can use. I always like to say it's like a watchdog in your environment. It learns the patterns of your environment, and when something's out of the ordinary, it barks and lets you know. And so it can detect things like DDoS and DOS attacks, or like network integrity. As I mentioned, shadow IT, so we can spot if maybe a shadow IT server has become compromised. If we see a server that's inactive, all of a sudden becomes active, we can know, hey, maybe this was a compromised shadow IT server. Of course, it alerts to any kind of abnormal behaviors, unusual ports, and sources and destinations that aren't common to your environment. Basically, it takes a 14-day baseline and builds a model based on that. So we like to say we have a 14, a normal 14-day period in your environment, and then Lighthouse is constantly receiving new traffic data and then able to alert anything that's out of the ordinary based on the model it created. One of the cool things about NetFlow is it's not just source, target, and port. It also has some other metadata in there, like TTL information, or for data exfiltration, we can see the volume of data in a flow and be able to tell you, is somebody trying to steal your data? Is there more data moving across the connection than there should be? And then, of course, things like lateral movement for man-in-the-middle attacks and DNS spoofing is coming soon, as well as port scanning. We can see as a server trying to scan a bunch of ports in your environment. And we've actually had some real-world successes in customers' environments with Lighthouse. One that I can mention from a customer is we were able to find their security team doing penetration testing, which was kind of a neat catch because they were very concerned about a lot of alerts. And then it turns out it was the security team. But we are able to spot that kind of suspicious behavior. So one of the big pushes for this new version in 2026.1 is the integrations. We've really expanded how we integrate with any kind of third-party monitoring tool or CMDB. We now have out-of-the-box integrations with Zabbix, and I'm going to show you in the demo how we can really kind of integrate with just about any monitoring tool out there. And same thing with CMDBs. We've had ServiceNow, and they've been a great partner and really cool integrations there. We've now added Jira Service Management. So we are in the Atlassian marketplace and have an actual partnership with Jira. And we'll go over that in the demo too. And I'm also going to cover a bit about the APIs. There's been some expansion to our APIs. Of course, we use APIs to connect to our data sources. We've also expanded our public APIs, really allowing really broad and expanded integrations. So just a quick at a glance, very high level, the new stuff that's been added into this new version. Lighthouse AI, we've made some constantly making improvements, made some really great improvements to our Lighthouse AI model and how that's working. So we'll dive into that. As I mentioned, the JSM integration, we're now feeding live infrastructure data into your CMDB, not just having to manually update it. Faddom actually turns it into a live living tool. Enhanced Compass AI features. We're going to talk about that. More contextual awareness now, making Compass AI like a really valuable kind of virtual assistant. AI suggested entry points into maps. This is a really cool feature for helping build out maps in really large, complex environments. And some cool new user discovery stuff. We kind of changed our functionality in user discovery and also added some kind of new visibility that we get through user discovery. So great, let's dive in and take a quick look at the demo. So let me exit this. We'll come here. So for those of you that are a little bit new to Faddom, this is the standard Faddom default dashboard. You can kind of get an eye in the sky of your environment, see what it looks like. This is our demo environment here. And I always just like to start with the Faddom basics. So the kind of the most powerful tool I find in the whole Faddom platform is really right here in the middle, and that's our search for anything bar. So just to give you a kind of an idea of the visibility Faddom can give you, you can search for any asset in your environment. Faddom discovers everything. So we can just start typing. We can search for individual servers. We can search for application maps, subnets. So let's just do a VLAN 3 search just to kind of get an example of what a good Faddom map looks like. And this is a great example. I like to call these general visibility maps. We made a search for a set of parameters, in this case, this particular CIDR block. And now we get a map, a visualization of that entire search. So just to kind of zoom in a little bit, we can see this is a fully hybrid map. These are our servers in blue. And you see the platform they're on, VMware. This one's in Nutanix. There's an Azure one and even a couple of physical servers. And so we have our servers in blue, and then the lines in between the servers are connections. And we have a little legend down here at the bottom so we can see we have active connections. And that means that's live in the environment right now, an active connection between these two servers. We can also see here's a red one. This would be a no response. So firewall, maybe the target server is down. And then gray is inactive connection. So we can see it's something we're used to seeing. Last saw it 3 hours ago. We see it every 10 days. And you can get any kind of this information about your connection. So this is just covering the basics of Faddom, but kind of what's the magic behind this map and what makes Faddom kind of different is these lines aren't just lines, they're arrows. They're not just telling us that two servers are communicating, but they're letting us know who initiated the communication. And that logic helps us build out the dependencies. So these kind of maps are great. You can save this search as a map. Once you do that, it's fully dynamic, and so it means any changes, any new servers added to VLAN 3 would show up in the map, and you could be alerted to. You can also always get everything in a list view and export anything you need to kind of any kind of platform. These are just the Fathom standards that we have here. So as I mentioned, this is a great general visibility map. You can also do advanced searches and really get granular with the type of details you want to see. But this isn't exactly an application dependency map. This is a map of a VLAN. For application dependency maps, you come over here and we have our application maps. So these are, we can see we've built out quite a few. So we kind of have them in folders too to organize them. So we come here to our web portal map. And we see this is this is our web portal application. This is a bit of a different view. This is what we call our tier view for those who are a little bit new. And it's really great for large multi-tier applications where we can double click and see our SMB servers, we can see our database servers, we can hover over them, see exactly who's communicating to who. So we can get that same granularity, but also kind of keep that eye in the sky to know what are my web servers doing, what are my application servers doing. In these large applications, a lot of times that's the more important visibility. Of course, you still always have the more granular server-to-server view. We find the application, the tier view to be kind of a lot more useful to most people. So this is great. We can build out these application maps. We can see our client connections, where they're entering the application, because an application map's all based on an entry point. But I think this is a really good time to talk about how we can get useful data out of these maps. And one of the best ways to do that is with Compass AI. So we see here at the top, we got our Compass AI button. Well, we've added a lot of really powerful features now to Compass AI. We have the enhanced mode, which is new to the 2026 version. And this gives a lot more contextual awareness to Compass. Instead of just being able to ask kind of general questions about your environment, Compass is now aware of the screen that we're looking at. So we can ask it direct questions about this map. For instance, which servers in this map have external connections? Maybe we got alerted that there might be some type of breach. We want to know, is something connecting from the outside into this application that shouldn't be, or maybe maybe a server is connecting outside. And this kind of data is there in the environment. We can dig through it, we can find it, or we can just ask the AI, and it will tell us exactly who's connecting out. So in this map, it looks like the JMeter server is connecting out to a Hurricane ASN over an RDP port. That could be significant information. We're connecting to an ASN, some external connection over RDP. Hard to know what that might be. But these are the kind of questions that you can ask Compass AI. Also, another great one is when is the best time to take down this application? Maybe we need to take down our web portal application for maintenance, or maybe some servers needed updating, a migration. There could be a lot of reasons to take down this application. We could look at this map, start digging into servers, understanding the charts, when are they most active, and build out a report for that kind of information. It could take several minutes or even a little bit more, or we can ask the AI. We can ask our virtual assistant here, Compass, and it will find all that information for us. It looks like it had just a little hiccup, but you get the idea. application. Let's give it another try. But it's going to read the database. It's going to look at the traffic information and understand kind of, here we go. There we go. And now it gives us a really great little chart that shows us exactly when we have, and it looks like we do have some really good windows every day, where we can easily take down this application for any kind of maintenance. So this is a kind of one of the, Compass is now a really powerful tool for being able to extract useful data that you get to leverage, uh, you know, on a daily basis to be able to pull that data from your maps. I see we have a quick question. Can the enhanced Compass AI automatically correlate live traffic data with CVEs? Yes, you can ask it any question about the CVE data, any information about what's going on in your environment, and it can absolutely give you information on security context as well. It now, with the enhanced mode, it has full contextual awareness. So this is a really cool new feature. We're really excited about the enhanced mode with Compass AI and kind of the way it lets you leverage the data in Faddom a lot more efficiently. Another cool new AI feature that we've implemented around the maps that's new to this version is when it comes to creating maps. Oh, we don't need to save the layout. So those of you guys that are familiar with Faddom will be very familiar with this screen. This is where you build out your maps. You can build them out based on tags. That's pretty self-explanatory. Traffic flow is the more common way, and that's where we need an entry point into the application. That's wherever a client would connect to the application, likely a load balancer, a web server, usually something along those lines. So a lot of times, especially in large environments, it can be hard to know exactly where are my entry points. So we have this check AI suggestions. And we've kind of made a really cool new advancement here. So what we found is that generally speaking, when a set of clients is connecting to an application, they're going to be coming from the same subnet or the same set of subnets. It could be something like virtual desktops, maybe, that are all in Azure. So here we have our Azure One subnet, and we know that these virtual desktops tend to access a certain set of applications that we want to find. Or maybe we know it's also users from the Wi-Fi subnet might be trying to access a certain set of applications. So now what we can do is we can select those subnets, and then the AI will select a set of entry points based on the subnets that the clients are in, giving us a lot more kind of granularity and be able to define down exactly what application entry points I'm looking for. So we know my clients reside in these subnets. These would be the possible application entry points that these clients would use. And then at that point, all you have to do is just, give it a click select. We can just give it a name and then create the map. And it begins creating the map. Looks like this one's a very simple map. But that's a cool new feature when it comes to the AI suggested entry points and being able to define down more granularly where your maps start, kind of giving you that starting place for you, kind of taking the guesswork out of it. So this is great. We've talked about the maps and kind of the new features that are coming around the application maps. Let's take a quick dive, a little bit more technical, a little bit deeper dive into some of the integrations that we've been doing. So this is we've revamped the settings menu and kind of reorganized it, made it a lot easier to use. So, you can see here, we're here in settings. This is kind of the two places in Faddom. You're either going to be here in this settings menu doing integrations and configurations, or you're going to be over here in the side working with the features. So it's kind of features menu and settings menu. And you can see we've added a whole section on integrations. And our newest section here is on event integrations. As we mentioned, we now have out-of-the-box integration with Zabbix. So here with Zabbix, you can see you can just click New. You just input your Zabbix information, Zabbix access token, and now Faddom will start receiving Zabbix alerts and displaying them live in the maps. So let's take a quick look at what that looks like. So let's come over to one of our maps, the application maps. And let's look at one of our folders. So, okay, here's a good example. ERP. We see it has this red dot next to it, severity error. That lets us know there's an operational event that occurred on this map. So let's find what this operational event might be. So here we have the web servers tier, and it also has a red dot. So we know that the operational events are here. Oh, we see we have several servers with operational events. So let's take a look at Tomcat 2. So Tomcat 2, operational events. And here we can see right here, here's an alert that came in from our Zabbix server. It lets us know it came in from Zabbix. We're also getting alerts from VMware, so we can also ingest alerts from there. We also have an alert telling us the link is down. So these alerts kind of all make sense. We're missing data. We have another Zabbix alert here. So this allows Faddom to kind of to ingest and integrate all of this alert and monitoring information that might be coming from different platforms is now all aggregated into a single place, and you kind of have like kind of becomes that single source of truth, that single pane of glass for your entire environment, giving you every layer of visibility. So that's the Zabbix alerts. Let's come back here to integrations. And I'm going to show in a minute how not just Zabbix, we really can integrate with just about any monitoring tool. We also have our JSM integrations. This is really new and really exciting for us. We are now Jira partners. There is a Faddom application, a Faddom app in the Atlassian marketplace. Basically, you install that application and then you configure, the Faddom import on that side, and then come over here once you have that configured on the Jira side. And it's basically our guide explains it all, and it's really a simple integration using the Faddom app in the Atlassian marketplace. And then you just input the Jira information here and your JSM information here, and Faddom will begin to sync. Somebody wrote takes an hour. It could. It could. But so yeah, and then it starts syncing, and basically Faddom starts pushing data into your Jira and updating your CMDB live with live data. We'll get to a lot of these questions at the end. I'm not sure, Jeremy, if there's plans for Ninja One. That's something that we'll cover some of those questions at the end for sure, about exactly what's planned for future integrations there. But I do want to cover one other thing. Of course, we've had ServiceNow as well. That's still continues and still a great integration and always improving. So let's take a quick look, since we're kind of asking about some other integration, and kind of take a deep kind of technical dive into something a lot of people don't know they have when they get Faddom. So here we can see we have our URL. This is my Faddom URL. I'm going to go to the API section. We have a built-in Swagger UI in Faddom. And here it is right here. So all you'd have to do, if you have Faddom, you have this. And all you have to do is just put in this extension to your Faddom URL. So your basic Faddom URL, and then this extension, it'll take you right to this page. And here are public available APIs. So just as an example, our events API, this is only put, and this is how we ingest monitoring information. So for example, really just about any monitoring tool, if it can send an API to the Faddom server with a request body using this format, and here we kind of outline what's needed and what isn't. We will ingest that information. It will show up in the maps just like you saw with the Zabbix alerts that I showed on the maps a little bit ago. So really, this opens Faddom up to integrate with just about any monitoring tool that you can set up a hook for to send this API call, which as far as I know is just about all of them kind of have that ability. So, we have Zabbix out of the box, but really we can integrate with just about any of them. This somewhat can go with CMDBs as well. So we just added to this version the applications V1 APIs. So now we can actually pull, or any tool that can send this API call can pull application map data from Faddom to populate anywhere you want. So here we can click and get some information about this API call. We can try it out if we wanted and actually pull the data. And here's an example of the response body. And we can see this is a Faddom map. We have the map name, are there changes, any warnings, server information, and then connection information. This is an entire Faddom map in JSON format. And this can be pulled via API and then populated anywhere you want it. Any tool that can pull this, that can ingest this kind of information in JSON format, can use this to populate. So we have ServiceNow integration, we have Jira integration that's truly integrated, but with our ability to pull server, connection, and application information straight from the Faddom database via API, we can kind of integrate with just about anybody with a little bit of clever scripting. So I really recommend if you're not used to using Swagger, it's a dream. I don't think anybody gets as excited about APIs as I do, but I really love Swagger. If you're used to Postman, you'll love Swagger. So it's here. Give it a try. All you have to do is you can get the authentication token from the settings menu, then authorize, and you can try out all these APIs. And Swagger is really great at telling you exactly what needs to go into the script to script these APIs. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes and kind of dive deep. A lot of people don't know that we have this integration ability in these public APIs. I'd also love to hear from anyone who has any ideas for APIs, something specific that you want. We're always looking to add new ones, so that's always something that we can add to our roadmap. So awesome. We've covered a lot. We've covered new features when it comes to map creation and the AI stuff. Uh, Splunk, please. Yeah, maybe we can do that. And so I want to talk about a few new features in the inventory screen. So, here's all our features. We have our maps, our secure. We'll get back to that. Migrate and optimize. I think most of you guys should be pretty familiar with the inventory screen. This is kind of a lightweight CMDB all on its own. We have, all of our, assets here. A couple of new things that we've added. One really cool new feature is down here at the bottom, and that is manually added servers. And I say this is really cool. This is really great for truly hybrid environments. So by truly hybrid, I mean one that will includes physical servers and on-prem virtualization and cloud virtualization. So previously with physical servers, we get the net flow data from your physical switches and we map the physical environment that way. And that's great. We're able to map all your physical servers, but they weren't being inventoried. Now you can actually add your physical servers or any server in manually in the inventory, put its IP address. So not only is it can be mapped, we can also now inventory your physical environment very easily. So that's a cool new one. The big push, and something I mentioned in the slides, was user discovery. So we've changed a little bit when it comes to user discovery. We still are operating the way we always have, which is an LDAP user to discover all our users, and then a user in the event log readers group to get all of the login information to see when and where the users have been logging in. That still continues. We have added another functionality, and that is with an event log. We call it the event log forwarder service. It's basically an MSI, a service that you'd install in your domain controller that would directly forward us the event log traffic over encrypted UDP, which is the most secure way to transfer that information. There's no connection to hijack in UDP, encrypted UDP. So we would get all that event log information along with DNS information and be able to populate that way. Also eliminates the need for a Windows proxy. So with that, kind of a new functionality, new feature that we've added is this recently detected changes. So with login discovery, we can always see where your users are logging in, what servers they're accessing, but now we also have visibility into the Active Directory. So what are my users doing inside Active Directory? Are they being deleted? Are they being added to groups, removed from groups? Just giving you another added layer of visibility, another added layer of control to your environment. And just quickly, we've added a new storage monitoring as well. We can now see the storage space. These are our VMware data stores, and we can see how full they are, the VMs that reside on them. Again, just trying to add more and more visibility that we can. And then a fun little free IP finder that uses no scanning. We're the only ones I know of that do not scan to find IPs. We use a little bit of logic. If we know all the IP addresses that are communicating, a little bit of math will tell us the ones that aren't, and we can just find a subnet and do a search, and it will find us all the free IPs in that subnet without scanning. So all of these features, everything we kind of covered, we've covered a lot. I've been talking really fast, but I wanted to get through it quickly. And it's some detailed technical stuff. But all of this feeds in to our big feature, and that is our Lighthouse AI traffic anomaly detection. We actually introduced this in the previous version, but we are constantly making updates, improving the models, how they work. And I think it's a good time to just kind of give an example of kind of the Lighthouse dashboard. So once you've configured Lighthouse, as I said, it takes 14 days of your environmental data, basically your NetFlow data, and builds a static model based on that. So we like to say a stable 14-day period, no migrations and things like that going on. Lighthouse learns, gathers the data, builds a model, and then alerts to anything that would happen outside of the norm in your environment. So, for example, here's a one that was detected in our lab environment. A connection targeted an unexpected destination on an unusual day of the week. So we can click on that. We can get the last 14 days of connection history. We can even zoom in and see exactly when and where this was. It was 5:30 a.m. and does seem odd. And we can decide. We see source, target, port over RDP. Was this an anomaly? Well, we do our investigation here. We can decide. Then we click review. And we can say, yes, this was an anomaly. Keep alerting me on this. Good job, Lighthouse. Or we can say, no, this actually wasn't an anomaly. This was a false positive. And I want to create a rule so you don't alert me on this. So AI gives us some suggestions of possible rules like RDP, ignore RDP traffic for weekends or RDP traffic, any RDP traffic on weekends or during off hours. We can also give it our own rules. So let's see here. Ignore RDP traffic from this source. Maybe I know that this source, the user one demo, is a fine source. I don't need to worry about it. So we just click generate rule, and hopefully it figures out my typo there. But it usually takes just about a minute, and it's going to come back. It's basically takes that rule, takes my prompt, sends it to the AI engine. It has to kind of break it down, understand it, and wow, it gave it back really quick. It's going to ignore RDP traffic from this source. So now we have a rule. I could save that rule. I don't think I have permissions actually to save that rule. The admin didn't give me that. But you get the idea. You can save the rule, and now we would ignore that kind of traffic moving forward. The more you talk with Lighthouse, the more you give it rules, the better it becomes at learning your environment, the more efficient it becomes at alerting to real events. As I said, we have had some real world success with Lighthouse actually catching real anomalies in customers' environments. So it's a really powerful tool, that extra added security feature that lets you rest a little easier knowing that there's always somebody watching your network. So that's the kind of breakdown of the new features that we've gone through in 2026, and kind of a show and tell of a demo of how they look like live in the environment. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Itamar to talk about our roadmap for the coming versions.
All right, thank you so much, Marcus. That's a great pitch, and I hope that everybody found some interesting features and capabilities we've just launched. Just a kind reminder, we do have a Q&A session, section, as part of this webinar at the end. So feel free to just type any question, idea. Marcus asked you if you have some public APIs, requests, or things. Feel free also to mention it here. We're always happy to hear that. Great. So a few things to mention about our roadmap. So in general, we have three main pillars that we will address, and we are addressing throughout the year of 2026. Some of it will also be part of the 2027 yearly planning. But just to give you a broad understanding of the things that keeps us busy, we like to divide it into three main sections. So first of all, we have discovery. Discovery is our core in Faddom. Every data source that is part of an application map, that is the fundamental layer for any other IT cyber security operation that can be done in one of Faddom's modules. So for the discovery piece, we do have a major focus on cloud service mapping. This is probably one of the biggest requests we got throughout the past, I would say, 6 months or so. How can Faddom help us map those services in the cloud? So in the next major release, we are also focusing on AWS. Later on, we're going to add support for Azure and GCP throughout the way. We can deep dive a bit on the next slide. This is just a high-level one. Kubernetes enhancements. Lots of things we're working on with regards to Kubernetes, whether it's from the discovery standpoint, how we can add more information to our inventory, and from a security standpoint, how we can utilize this information towards DNS, and how we can help identify different anomalies on users, essentially, as well. So there are different areas related to Kubernetes, but the DNS aspect is also something that we try to utilize for both, for discovery and security. In the security area, so Lighthouse is one of our biggest go-to-market strategies for 26 and 27, because we believe that every layer that Fathom collects, every data source that we identify, every map built in Fathom is a very good baseline, a fundamental baseline for detecting abnormalities. So we started with different phases in Lighthouse. We're currently in production. We do have a long waiting list, so we try to scale up slowly but surely. So Lighthouse 2.0 is a big focus, and I'm going to explain a bit more on the next slide. Microsegmentation enhancement. In recent major releases, we have launched our microsegmentation module within Fathom, essentially helping you plan for any microsegmentation project, build your own policy, plan for your own policies based on the application maps created in Fathom. The first phase included an integration with Nutanix Flow. I'm going to explain a bit what is our plan here and how we want to enhance it even more. Integration is also one of the biggest things that keeps us busy. We understand the more Fathom grows into from being a tool into being a platform, the target market of our company, since we were first established approximately 5 years ago, has grown with us. So companies became bigger, and larger customers are interested in using our platform. So integrations is something that we care a lot about. We have a dedicated team for integrations. We are always happy to hear what types of integrations you need in order to make Fathom as your data enabler, source of truth for your CMDBs, integrating monitoring tools, alerts from your own tools into Fathom so you can get a better understanding of what is happening in real time, because Fathom is essentially not a monitoring tool, but a complementary one. So we focus on that. JSM, I believe, Marcus, you've mentioned it, but we've just launched a big partnership with Atlassian around JSM. So for all of the customers and prospects that we do have here on the call, JSM integration is now live in production. It's not in roadmap yet. You can actually start using it. So we hope you're going to find it useful to discover your assets for the JSM platform using Fathom. This is also same pitch about public APIs. Okay, public APIs is something we are adding and increasing our support on a quarterly basis, frankly. So yeah, Marcus, you can move on to the next slide. Okay, we can drill down a little bit just to give you an understanding of what we are building next. So around Lighthouse 2.0, first of all, we have Lighthouse currently in production. It's live. If you do want to join the waiting list, you are more than welcome. Lighthouse is our traffic anomaly detection module that essentially sits on the Fathom infrastructure in terms of how you can make it operational for you. This is our own unique module to detect anomalies, but we are always trying to improve it and trying to understand what segments we can add to Lighthouse, not only around traffic, but also around user behavioral anomaly detection, user behavior analysis. This is something that is currently in research. How we can combine our user discovery capabilities, making sure we have the right type of information, also from the DNS that I mentioned earlier. So the DNS security aspect. So how we can know more about what users within organizations are doing, not only servers. So for the DNS aspect, this is also very, very relevant on how we can utilize that towards Lighthouse 2.0, supporting more and more use cases around anomaly detection in general, which is not only traffic-based. So this is one area that we focus on currently in research. We hope that next quarter we're going to have some big news around that. Cloud service mapping. Cloud service mapping, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most important things for our cloud team within the R&D. We are planning to add support for AWS from the upcoming major versions. So it will be out very soon, how we can map those most common services in AWS. Later on, we're going to add Azure and GCP to our stack. So we believe that this will help adding more granularity to the dependency mapping, understanding not only the server layer and the VM and building application based on that, but just to understand also what services do we have and how they are communicating, the dependencies, the impact, and making sure you have full visibility. Also for cloud personas, right? So Faddom excels as of now for hybrid environments. On-prem is our bread and butter, but just to make sure we are relevant and making the right amount of inputs for cloud environments, even cloud native environments. That's important for us as a strategy moving forward. DNS discovery and security, I already mentioned it a little bit. Apart from the Lighthouse aspects of anomaly detection, we are planning to add support for detecting different SaaS application using DNS. So that's a dedicated module that we're going to have for mapping those SaaS application and understanding what communicates externally. Also around malicious domains. So this is also something currently in research, how we can help for the security aspects there. So we can kind of combine all the information towards providing the right inputs on this area as well. Kubernetes. So we talked a lot about that so far. As of now, also part of the latest major version, we do support Cilium, that based on our surveys and communication with our clients, this is the top CNI that was selected to support first. If you do use other CNIs and Kubernetes is in your focus, please let us know. It's in our focus, it's a strategy, and we would like to support you with your challenges over there for proper visibility, dependencies, understanding the actual traffic from the network standpoint. And Cilium is the first one we're supporting, but we're planning to allocate even more resources around that. Also inventory, just to map all of the Kubernetes clusters in inventory, making sure you have all the right understanding, the correct understanding of the different flows, the different hierarchies, the different audit, the different logs. So we want to make sure we are providing the right information as part of our inventory lightweight CMDB that we do have in Faddom. Public APIs, I think I already mentioned it. That's given. Marcus also asked you. We do encourage you to check our API documentation. Swagger is a great format that we like to use. But for every use case that you feel that you don't have a proper API that we can support, we're going to add it. Okay, we have a dedicated team for that, and we want to make sure that Faddom is embedded within any workflow that we can contribute, and make sure that your day-to-day operations is easier and smoother using us as a baseline. Microsegmentation. So microsegmentation module is a big piece of what we're building. So far, we added a native integration, out-of-the-box integration with the Nutanix Flow product, the equivalent for NSX. Although it's more of a niche product, if I look at our customers, the majority of them are on VMware, but we do have some Nutanix customers. Nutanix acted as a very good design partner of ours to build this module, so we are very proud on that. If you don't have a Nutanix as a data source or something you use for your infrastructure, that's completely fine. You can still use this module to build your own policies, to plan for them, and Faddom will detect changes over time, although you cannot push it directly to the other product. What we are building now is the ability to push those policies planned in Faddom to cloud security groups, so you can make sure we will support it in the cloud. VMware NSX is also in the roadmap, but cloud security groups is the ones who will be released first. We're going to start as well with the major cloud providers. Good. Maybe last thing I wanted to share before we are moving on to the Q&A part. Maybe something about the roadmap in general that is more tactical, but I think it's very relevant to the core of the platform. So the application maps in Faddom is the most critical layer for any other module, any other use case that we help with. In the coming version, we will add some granularity to our tier-based maps. So as of now, the default tiers are being defined automatically based on ports. So we will add more support for tags, subnets. There will be other criteria that you will be able to define how you would like your tiers to be defined automatically by the system. So you have your full flexibility and granularity over there. This is also a big feature request that came from lots of our customers, and we are very proud that it will be released very soon.